Hello, 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 and welcome everyone to our Techspressionism virtual salon. I am your host, Davo Bradley, fellow artist and friend to a lot of you people now. With me is Colin Goldberg, who coined the term, and our wonderful, one of our presenters for today, the other one's running a little late, but Diana is also in attendance, going to be presenting. And just want to welcome all of you again. So if you are new around these parts and our little corner of the internet and Zoom, we normally conduct these meetings pretty open on the flow. We start things off with usually two presenters. During the time that presenters are presenting, we ask that you keep your mic muted and save your questions until later, which you can drop your questions in the chat. I'll get to them then. Or any other comments, doesn't have to be a question. And then we'll have a discussion about said presentation after the presentation is done. We've been doing this for a minute now, since September of 2020, right? Yeah. No, wait.
Is it?
My sense of time is messed up because pandemic happened. Has it been
2020, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't seem like it, but yeah, we've been doing.
I remember those first ones. Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like 2020. Anyway, we've been at this for a while now, but this is a really fairly close-knit community that I've come to love, and quite a few of you have come to love it as well. And yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to share at the start. So with that being said, Diana, are you ready to go?
I am ready to go.
All right, you have the floor.
Thank you. My name is Diana de Avila. Can you see this, first of all? Give me a...
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm Diana de Avila. I am a digital artist, an acquired savant, and a synesthete. What is acquired savantism? Some might know, some might not. But basically, I received my art ability overnight. I had never been an artist. I'm getting ready to celebrate the 5th anniversary of a multiple sclerosis relapse and TBI injury that resulted in this fantastic art gift. There is a doctor by the name of Daryl Treffert. He's the Rain Man doctor, and he talks about people, savants, having abilities that they never learned. Or we know things that we've never been taught. My savantism arrived with this crazy group of images, or blobs. I have worked on a book, and my co-author is on tonight, Wilma Davidson, and we produced Soldier Sister Savant, which actually shares my story of being in the military and onward, and my accident and the art gift. Through the eyes of Cassini, a lot of my art, I would say 90%, begins with fractal geometry. Fractal geometry always plays some segment. I tend to mix fractals up, work with formulas, work with images, and get a lot of different results. This was a fractal manipulation with a name courtesy of Cynthia Di Donato. She won a contest, we named it. Splinter Man is actually an NFT and was part of an NFT collaboration of 50 international artists. Eames Swirly, I tend to want to use more textures, colors, to try to let my eyes do some of the work with perception. Having MS, vision is affected with me, hearing, and the sense of touch. So I try to recreate a lot of it. This was actually created in the midst of an insomnia bout. And it's a fractal recreated, manipulated, and recreated again with 30,000 individual curves. This is another fractal recreated. I love the bright colors. I tend to exaggerate color texture. Synesthesia, if you're not familiar with it, I have it, but it is a crossing of the senses. So for me, sound produces color and shape. I tend to work with experimental things. I'm trying to bring out some glass and a little bit of texture. Texture again. This was a fractal somewhere along the way, and I'm going to use it. I mean, I've probably used it in other pieces. I'll use many different pieces of my artwork to make new artwork. Fractal geometry using self-similarity. And since 2017, I've created about 1,200 pieces of artwork. I never knew what an art exhibit was. I've never taken an art class. I didn't know what fractal geometry was. I didn't know what a fractal was. I've never taken color theory. It's truly a mystery to me and the world. There are about 300 of us in the world. Fractals, texture. And I've gotten into augmented reality recently, which has been fun. Many of these pieces are NFTs as well. This was a recent piece, Rhythm of the MRI, and I came out with a little bit of wording that my co-author helped me with as well. And if I could do a visual depiction of the way I imagine something sounds, it's like reverse synesthesia. I'm trying to bioengineer my senses in a way. But I've had so many MRIs, and I've always imagined, what do those coils look like? So an image has always come to me, and I finally decided to create it. The next bit that I want to show is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to share a short video, because my art goes into movement. And to show you, okay. Here we go. I also want to mention that the audio that you hear with this is my creation as well. I do get some synesthetic sounds, and I try to recreate. So this is actually a piece called Pegasus. And you'll hear some abstraction. To me, it's not about the music theory as much as it is about the, just getting the feelings out. And that's really what I have. I mean, I could show a lot of work, but are there any questions? Or no questions. Do whatever anybody wants.
No questions. How are we supposed to pick your brain?
No, if there's time, you can send me questions. Yeah.
Oh, well, I think we actually do have some time in between your presentation
Okay.
and because
Yeah.
I'm not sure Pat's here yet. So let me see. No, he hasn't arrived quite yet. So that being said, if anyone does have any questions for Deanna, feel free to ask away.
Yeah, I had
Or
a question, Deanna. It was
Yeah.
lovely work. It's really great to see that. And I was fascinated by the very last piece you showed, the hummingbird.
Oh,
I wondered how you did that, what app you used, or
I used a combination of I used the Adobe Cloud, for a lot of my work. So that was Adobe Aero and Adobe Dimension, I believe, and I might have used Final Cut. Or that, no, I might have used, what's the Adobe version of the
Premiere, probably.
Premiere? Thank you. I've
okay.
got so many different, but the Adobe Aero is one of the big ones that you can use for the augmented reality, which is amazing and a lot of fun.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not so familiar with that tool set, so
Yeah,
it's
that's
really cool.
for a lot of my work. It goes end to end Adobe, but then I throw in all kinds of strange applications, anything I can find get my hands
Sure.
on, kind of work with, experiment. Yeah.
I mean, I know some of the Adobe products, but Adobe Aero, that's new for me.
Yeah, I try anything new that they put out and just kind of hunt and peck and create.
Cool. Very cool.
And you mint your work primarily on known origin, Diana? Or Deanna?
Known origin. I know it's known origin and foundation, and I have some on OpenSea and Niftyfy. That's another one that fractionalizes NFTs. But I mean, I just had somebody I did an NFT project with, Sketcha, that Splinter Man. He had $160,000 in crypto stolen from his wallet, and Splinter Man was stolen too. So I'm not anxious to use, and that was from OpenSea. I'm not really anxious to go outside the other, known origin and foundation, unless I can get onto super rare somehow. It's a little bit less wild. Should I show some of my NFT screens? Does anybody interested?
Sure.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah. I went quickly. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, and if you want to drop any of your links to, your for the NFT platforms that you're on to your profiles in the chat, that would be cool too.
Yeah, actually, if you go to my main website, let me go to, how do I, okay. This will get you to clothing, because I create clothing, and I have a shirt on right now that I've created. We did a book that's on there, and then the NFT marketplaces you can get to. What did I do? Can you see the NFTs there? What are we looking
on
at?
known, yeah, we're looking at known origin
Oh,
right
okay,
now.
I'm not sure what, yes. So everything's showing up the same, but I've got a moving version and a still version, several different pieces. And I was just invited in December. I had tried 3 times, and it's worth it. I got 2 sales within the first week. I think it's been a little rough since, but. And then foundation, that's where I have most of my collectors, and I've got 75 NFTs there. But it seems things are a little quiet, I think. But I've gotten into some fun 3D. I mean, you can actually, I'm just getting started, but I had created this pop can collection that people, they were actually buying them on OpenSea. They could add them to their video games. That was my to create something that would be usable in video. I've also done clothing. And this is made by a company in Les Galeries in Montreal. And they're so good. So, I mean, I've got many different artworks. There's dresses, and this piece is actually a generative assembly. That is a generative work that I created. So a little bit of everything.
All right, Deanna, looks like we have some questions queued
All
up for
right.
you. So I think first up, we'll go with Sherry.
Thank you, Deanna. I thought that was a lovely presentation. I really liked the way the music worked with your imagery. I thought it was really very strong. And I wondered, what is your background before you got into art? What were you doing?
I was a school psychologist, metrics, and then I was a web developer. So I was a web developer with General Electric Global, and I worked with single sign-on. So it was more architecture. Yeah, and then I became an entrepreneur and sold I invented a little pouch to carry an asthma inhaler, the MedReady Puffer Tote, it was called, and we sold them all over the world. But I developed MS, and I had to retire in 2005 or so. So, and then it's kind of progressed. So that's brought me to art, which is a gift, and it's so therapeutic. Really therapeutic.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Looks like we've got Tommy with a couple of questions, actually. He said, do you view your AR work through a specific app?
The way I do it, so Arrow, that's how you can create and view, but I tend to make videos out of them, and then I'm using a couple different things, but Adobe Arrow and Adobe Dimension I've used, and that's, you got it? Yeah, I do it on my iPad a lot. Davo, you'll love your iPad when it comes.
Yeah, when I finally get it. I've never really used Apple products before, but I guess there's a first time for everything.
I got to tell you that I am using everything I've created. I've done, well, recently, because I just got it, the MacBook Pro 16-inch M1 Max. That can render 3D on the fly. And my, I had an iMac 27-inch that was chugging along, and I finally killed it, and I had to replace it. But this thing is insane. Recommend. I mean, if I don't break it, because I push them hard, it's not even making a sound. It's great.
Nice.
Tommy?
All right.
Here.
We have another question from Anne. So did the synesthesia come with art, or did you have it before?
No, it came with art. Synesthesia came with art, and I thought I was going nuts. I'm in my pool, and I had gotten out of the hospital because I had an MS relapse, lost vision in my left eye, and a lot of vertigo. And as they put me on steroids, and it made me kind of crazy. They do that when they're at really high doses. And I was in my pool, and I'd never had the desire to create art, or didn't know what was happening to me at the beginning, but colors, amazing. But along with the colors, the compulsion to create, and that compulsion hasn't stopped. And that's a common feature with acquired savantism. It's a very strange, it's like an OCD that comes from brain injury, you know, and it just requires creation. It's a good outlet, but nuts.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Anne, and we have two questions from David.
Okay.
Could you briefly explain what fractals are, and why do you think you didn't have this art ability in you before?
Okay. Fractals use fractal geometry. I've had to study, I'd had to come up because I was creating fractals before I knew what they were. Fractals use self-similarity and recursion, and they repeat, repeat, repeat. You can see fractals and shorelines in the cosmos, and like a nautilus seashell, if you saw some of my work. They're very familiar. We're used to the patterns. And how do I know I didn't have this art? Because I'd never done it. I couldn't color. I still can't write my name very well. There are real motor deficits, and I couldn't translate my art ability to a canvas. It doesn't translate. I'm a digital artist and I'm focused and I'm kind of in that lane. So, and that's very common too. It's a mystery, but I was evaluated by the top doctor in the world, the Rain Man doc. And it's nuts.
I'll ask our resident wizard here as well, if he has another explanation for fractals too, Mr. Price.
Yeah, do the explanation, the real one.
Oh, Michael, can you hear me? Oh,
He's
no.
frozen. No, Michael.
Yeah.
Fractals.
Putting you on the spot.
I'm running a little slow after my surgery. Sorry, I apologize.
No, it's fine. I forgot.
So you were asking about fractals?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think Deanna was explaining it pretty well. I mean, it's an area, it's a specialized area of mathematics that's in a larger realm called chaos theory.
Yep.
And chaos theory deals with higher order mathematics, and what really distinguishes it is this thing about feedback loops.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps to generate these repetitious patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And as Deanna was explaining, you can see the patterns. They're not exact replicas. When you look at things, you see very small variations, but when you look at it globally, you can see it's being repeated, but with small changes. And when you look at like the Nautilus shell and other formations like that, that's why this has taken so long to develop. Because early on, when this was looked at, it was really seen as not very important because our mathematics has all been Euclidean for several thousand years. If it wasn't straight lines and circles and things, it was hard to understand. And it wasn't really until the advent of computers that we could really explore this. Yeah. And Benoit Mandelbrot was the one who really kind of brought this forward. And it took a while to really get accepted, but now it's seen in so many different areas. It's still complex. I mean, it's still really complex, but like some radio circuit boards have been created using fractal patterns. And there's just a lot of new applied science where fractals are really showing efficiency in design, which nature needs because nature is about efficiency. So yeah, all right, enough of mine.
No, that's great.
Thank you, Professor Price.
You're welcome.
I didn't have any math background. I can see somebody had talked about were you good at geometry before the Savantism? No, I never even took Algebra 1 in school. I studied music, but by the time I got to GE, I did take some statistics in college, and I really excelled in statistics, but I've never taken a geometry class. It's all, I mean, I have textbooks that I've had to catch up to the math, and it's been fun. And Wilma, who's on, I can see her. We are in touch with a savant, a synesthetic expert. Her name is Dr. Berit Brogard, and she's at some point going to do a functional MRI of my brain. But she did she's done several books. The Genius Mind, I think, is one of hers. And she worked very closely with Dr. Treffert, but she seems to think that when I had I had a motorcycle accident in '84 that caused it, my helmet cracked in half and I had my brain injury then, but it's gotten worse over time. But Dr. Britt believes that I developed some of that giftedness in an area of math at that time, but I never knew that because that was years ago. But I'm kind of catching up. It's exciting and interesting.
Along those same lines, still talking about fractals, Lucy wants to know, it's like, do you code your fractals, or use software, or both?
Both, yes, both. Yep, J Wildfire is how I like. But I use Chaotica, I use Mandelbulber. It's any new thing I can find too.
And Colin wants to know, did you have any favorite artists before your Savantism began?
I didn't know any artists. I know it sounds pathetic, but when I think of it, imagine being dropped on the moon and you're not an astronaut, and it's like, where's my suit? What do I do? So I didn't know artists, but I'm learning them, and I'm learning who I kind of favor. And then I've learned how to appreciate art and discuss art. It's been a schooling for me.
Can definitely relate to that.
It's amazing how many of us got started with this digital art through some sort of health problem.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I noticed in all the presentations, it's true of myself, and it's true of, I think, quite a number of us. That's interesting.
That is, yeah.
Okay, so got two questions back to back, both about music.
Okay.
So Cynthia wants to know, tell us about your music and its connection to your art.
Okay, so I come from a drumming background. I was a drummer, and I sang and some guitar. Music, it's hard to explain. It's one of my synesthetic processes, that music creates shapes, and that's how I first discovered it. Music, I would play these certain songs, and within the 5 or 6 songs, within the first year of my artistic gift, first year and a half, I found myself listening to the same 5 or 6 songs, and it produced a certain kind of work. But I kind of needed the music to create, and it really makes a better job. But reversing it, I have a new type of synesthesia that is creating sound. Touch is crossing over and creating sound, heat and touch. So some of that music, which is all mine, every instrument, I created it using Apple Logic Pro X and instrument loops. Yep. Do I use a VR set? Ooh, I'm sorry, I hopped out, but I'm going to answer that one. I tried. I have double vision, bad, really bad vision. So I'm not able to. I wanted to so bad. Can't quite get that. I did the music. Dalton, I did the music. Yeah.
Dana wants to know, how long has it been? I guess are you asking about how long has it been since the accident, or how long has she known since, how long has she been?
Savant.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you both of them. The accident was in 1984. MS was diagnosed in 2001. And I had this mother of all relapses that caused vertigo and vision problems in summer 2017. And that's when it came, June 2017. Yep. Yeah.
So I hope that answers her her question. But
5-year anniversary coming up this summer of my art gift. And I feel like the art has gone from the blobs to now AR and doing some 3D, but I love working with the fractals and creating texture and messing them all up and using algorithms and numbers. It's fun.
All right. Well, as much as I know people's minds are stewing, trying to come up with things to ask you, in the interest of time, I think we probably need to get going so that Patrick can also have his presentation. With that being said, thank you so much, Deanna, for your time and your presentation. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure working with you as well. All right. And Mr. Lichty, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're
Yeah.
here.
So you know what? There's just every once in a while, there's just that one particular that one thing that you want to show that you just can't find. And I'm sorry, I was digging around for that. So, anyway, I apologize for being a little bit late, but it'll be worth it, I swear.
Well, you got the floor.
Okay, well, anyway, I hope I have more a couple of walls in the ceiling too, because it's cold here. All right, so let's see here. Let me go over here and share. And let's see here. Let's start here. Is that okay. So this is giving a presentation on my work is really, really difficult at any time because of the fact that I've been doing it since about 1990. I've probably done a few thousand works. And the thing is that I work in about 3 or 4 different genres. I work in generative and algorithm and AI and that sort of thing, and robotics, and then I work in video, and then I work in performance, and then VR and AR and stuff like that. Can't talk about it all. So I'm gonna kind of like get into a little bit of and let's see here. I've been part of collectives like the Yes Men that were this weird activist group. We were in the Whitney Biennial Second Front, Second Life performance group. Let's see here. Did some things with some of the Fluxus artists and things like that. So I've been around. So anyway, this is just a quick snapshot. So I hope this will be fun. I want to kind of call this concerning the spiritual and the apparatus. By the way, this is where I grew up. Not literally, I was within like 2 miles of this place. I'm from Akron, Ohio. I was born in 1962, and this is the Goodyear Zeppelin air dock. And so this is the USS Macon, and it was an actual American warship, lighter than air warship. So they made 5. They all crashed. But the thing is that when I was about 35, I was part of a Star Trek fan club that got the original Star Trek Galileo shuttlecraft, and we were the first group that tried to restore it in this dock. So I wanted to be in special effects, really. I love science fiction. My mom raised me on it. And what happened is that, oops, hang on. I thought I had my machine just kind of like launching up on me a bit here. Okay, you know what? I had an Atari 800 up, but what I'm gonna say is that my first computer was in 1978, was an Atari 800, and my parents thought, oh, this is great. He needs to be a computer engineer, and they didn't see I was drawing on it. So anyway, so I got a couple engineering degrees. I decided it was driving me nuts, and then I wanted to be a neon sign maker until I found out that you're dealing with thousands and thousands of volts of electricity and mercury and all that sort of thing. So I quit after a couple of years, and there was just one point where I was asked what I wanted to do with myself. Well, actually, I have some health issues myself. I have retinitis pigmentosa and glaucoma. And so what happens is that I was supposed to be blind at 30, and I always, either wanted to be in special effects or in art. And so what happened is that said, oh, you can wait, be practical, do the thing. And, you can be an artist when you retire. And I said, well, not according to the doctors. So I basically, threw caution to the wind, and I said, okay, fine. I started a design studio and that sort of art and design studio, did art half-time, and then did screen design for Accenture and McKinsey in their educational group for for about 10 years. And that kept me alive. And then I realized I needed to be an academic after the .com crash. But about 1990, I just, while I was thinking about what the heck I wanted to do as an artist, I fell in love with the first wave avant-garde, Dadaism and surrealism and, all these isms, these sorts of things. And I was actually going to do a big, long thing about expressionism and kind of like how I kind of feel things go up to today. But I'm just going to say that I fell in love with one of the two schools called the Blau Reiter, which was basically Franz Marc and Vasily Kandinsky. And so they were like really into the ideas of spiritual values that could counteract the, the corruption, materialism of Germany at the time. And this really appealed to me. And so I basically found, the question to me is like, expressionism wasn't necessarily emergent around the emotional, but the spiritual. So considering I'm kind of a pretty darn secular person, inspired by many world religions, this is a big question for me. So I wound up finding Kandinsky. And while I was studying the first wave avant-garde, I found these two books, Point and Line to Plane and Concerning the Spiritual and Art. And about 1992, 1993, I just decided, okay, I just really just kind of decided to throw my entire body and heart, body and soul into art. And I just kind of locked myself away and decided not to look at any art except for reading these books. And it became the foundations of my painting. So this is one of the pieces that came out in 1993, 18 by 24 inches in watercolor. I did 12 of these. Some of them still exist. And then this is 1993. I worked very heavily with, actually at the time, was fractal painter, not Corel painter. And showed, they had a traveling show. I traveled, I showed a lot of my work with the fractal design traveling show. And this was a 1994 cover of Computer Graphics World. And so, I was still trying to kind of break from this Kandinsky thing. And, but at the same time, I was living up here in Minnesota. And I met this guy named Roman Verosco, who's part of this group called the Algorists, who has kind of adopted me in a way. But what happens is that he used to be a Benedictine monk, director of Minneapolis College Art and Design and that sort of thing. And I just really got into his pen plotter work. And this right here, if you get your head around this thing, this is everything he does all in one spot. And I asked him to be his student, and he said no. We're still great friends though. I'll probably see him in a couple of weeks. But anyways, what happens is that it took me about 8 years to find my own way. And in 2003, I had this show called Jennifer Bot. And it's like where I had started working with these little rovers that had water brushes filled with sumi ink and that sort of thing. And this is the show. This was at Barrister's Gallery in New Orleans. I was living in Baton Rouge, New Orleans at the time. This is from 2000 to 2004. And this is, so that piece over to the right there, that's called man-machine interface. I've still got it. I still have it. It's 9 by 21 feet. And the rest of these here are like 10 by 10 foot. And this is another one that's a 30 by 40. And so the red is me and the black is the bot. So anyway, this is kind of, I was just kind of wondering, really, I called these things kind of man-machine interfaces, because the thing is that I've always been interested in where kind of, you know, oil painting is a tool, you know, it's a technology. So I, you know, when we're using a tool, where do I, and, you know, where do I end and where does the apparatus or the tool start? And where is that spark of magic that happens in that creative impulse? A couple of side things. This is something I did in grad school. Colin probably remembers this. These are called pixel boxes. They're made of, you know, those cheesy color changing LEDs. These are kind of arrays and laser cut boxes, but the whole thing is that they all have different timings. So what happens, you put them in a big array and they start making complex stuff. Also, Cynthia might remember that I showed these at SIGGRAPH as well. But, you know, I'm kind of keeping into the idea of algorithm in terms of plotter work and then going into AI work. This is, and 3D scanning work. This is what I'm kind of doing at this point for this particular thing. These were pieces that I did for a couple shows I had DAM Gallery in Berlin and Sensible Concepts at the Yard in New York. And the thing is that what happens here is that this was at the beginning of this thing called post-internet art. In other words, sort of like what happens in art after the internet. And a colleague of mine named Marissa Olson did these pieces where she did drawings from the monitor of dead media. And I said, well, my take on this is saying that the internet is made of cats. So on one hand, I said, well, you know, you're drawing monitors and cassette tapes. I'm drawing cats. And this is another piece that I did for another show I did with Barrister's Gallery. They represented me for a long time, unfortunately. Andy Antipis, the gallerist, he has lung cancer and is hopefully will be with us a couple more years, but he just shut down the gallery. This is a piece called Predator versus Predator. Basically kind of commenting on the idea of the fact that almost all our pets that we have are predators or one form or another, or I kind of say institutionally or governmentally. And the other thing is that a large part of my plotter work has to do with Nagin, actually. So this is the latest piece that I did there. So I wanted to throw that in. Because actually for about a year since I've been in Minnesota, I had a really bad block. And the one thing is that I'll go back to, you know, some more work with Nagin, but the thing is that she's always been really good at breaking my mental blocks. This is from another piece of work that Nagin and I are working on. It's called Google Earth, in which we've been doing representations of imagery from Google VR. And this was just really interesting to me because, you know, it's like I was up about maybe, you know, about 80,000 feet up, and all of a sudden there was this menu that says tilt Earth down and rotate. And I thought that was just really crazy, actually. But the thing is that Googled Earth, and by the way, thanks to Brandon Gellis also for having the first major show of it. It's really kind of based on the fact that, you know, hopefully until not too far away from now, that we haven't been able to be in each other's countries. And, you know, and through media is really the only way that we've been able to be where our family, our respective families have been from. And I think it's a deeply effective piece for both of us. Another piece of Negin is like, that's, I've done probably about 160, 170 plotter pieces with various techniques and that sort of thing, you know, on one of these Axidras like Colin has. And the thing is that about a good maybe 10th of them are of Negin. So this is an interesting, you know what is that everybody, you know, if you have a muse, you know, right? So this is actually a mural that I did for the United Arab Emirates science fair in 2018, 2019, I forget. And they commissioned me to do this. And what was really interesting is we said, we really love your robotic work. And because I've done a piece about the founder of the UAE, Sheikh Zayed bin Nahyan Sheikh Zayed, founder of the UAE, sorry. But anyway, no disrespect to anybody. But what happens is that there's the Crown Prince, and there's Sheikh Mohammed of Dubai, and there's the Hope probe that's now around Mars and Dubai. And I said, we want you to do something about the UAE. And I said, well, no falcons and no sheikhs. I said, no, well, we can get away with no falcons, but you have to have sheikhs. I said, well, all right, well, that's fine. So that was an interesting piece. And actually, it was really good because I got to work with, I got to kind of instruct high school kids about how this worked. And I think it was really a fantastic experience, actually. Okay. Quick breath. So a lot of this was kind of about your machines and mark making and all that. And so this is now getting over into the back into the hand, but the hand back into the apparatus. So between 2017 and I still do these, I've been doing these calligraphy pieces. Probably I haven't been doing so many, but I used to do about 1 or 2 over breakfast, and I'd do about 10 of them, and I'd keep about 2, and currently I have probably about 1,500 of them, and you know, I'd love to. I'd love to print them all, but you know, who has the money for that? You know, so that's the thing. Or maybe they could all be NFTs. Who knows? But here's another one, and here's where one of them actually got displayed at the Ras Al Khaimah Art Festival, and it was called "Not Exactly What I Meant to Say," and whatever I meant to say was, well, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what I meant to say, but it wasn't, I just said not exactly what I meant to say, whatever that was. So AI, generative adversarial networks. What I wound up doing, and I have a little bit of text on the bottom, ignore that. I work a lot with a platform that Ann Spalder and Carla Gannison introduced me to, and I'd already heard about a little bit through some papers called playform.io. So what I did is I took 2 sets of 512 of these calligraphies and put them into the system. And then I generated another 256 from each of these, and then I cross compared them. Yeah, and I put them both as, you know, as pieces, as groups, and then put them in against themselves. And what I wanted to try to do is I wanted to see whether I could find the internal consistencies of the patterns of my creative process, because they tend to be kind of subtractive and comparative. So what happened is I wanted to take one group, churn through those, take another group, churn through those, take one set from each of those, and then compare them and see what was in common. And I wanted to see then if I could find my own kind of like the vocabulary of my own mark making and that sort of thing, which is one of two things. Is either Noam Chomsky wrote about this thing called deep structure. He's talking about the idea that we have an inherent knack for grammar as human beings. In other words, like in other words, we're almost like biologically hardwired to speak. So I said, okay, I want to see what my wiring is by doing this. So I thought either one way or the other. I said, this is really an interesting conversation about creativity and neurology, or I'm chasing my tail like you would not believe. So, and these would go forward along with doing some, actually Playform also has take a sketch and turn it into a painting using a style. And I would take about 2 or 3 layers and one of these and put these together. And these, I did, I think 24 of these, one of these, and this is the piece that will be in Southampton. And this is the piece that was the cover piece for the Techspressionism 2021 show. So the thing is that these are things that are very intuitive to me. I like the idea of like affective and intuitive computing. So something else that I'm doing with Playform is, once again, in regards to like conversations with Negin about rugs and pictorial rugs and that sort of thing, is that I was very interested in jacquard weaving ever since about 2004, which is a form of digital weaving. But the thing is that since I was living in the Middle East for 5-6 years, and of course, in conversations with Negin and that sort of thing, I was wondering about, what would happen if I took, a couple hundred, Persian carpets and threw them into, a generative adversarial network, and, with different styles from different regions, like, from Tehran, from Isfahan, from the Bakhtiari stuff and that sort of thing. And so the thing is that after running through this, I thought it was really interesting to see what would pop up. And actually, currently, there's a NFT mining project with Playform in which you can go out, called Art Mine, and you can go out and pick any one of these particular pieces, and I'm using polygons. So for 150 polygon, you can get one of these, and it's and it'll knock it out of the model. And then the thing is that if you get 10, I'll send you a 50 by 60 inch jacquard woven piece of whichever NFT you want. So, which is actually less expensive than, let's see here, 1500 polygon is usually less expensive than my larger pieces, which are 80 by 60 inch. So, little intermezzo, couple other pieces, and then we'll get into the 3D scanning. These are some other pieces that I did. One, this is called American war rugs. In other words, if you've seen like Afghani war rugs and that sort of thing, they have pictures of drones and tanks, and basically talking about America and Russia, etc. I thought, what would an American war rug be like? It would probably be some guy in Nevada who took a couple screenshots from his Predator display and then have them jacquard woven, and that's what I did. So I found some predator shots of one of a target and before and after engagement, and did that. Also, I think this was 2010. There was a group of us that I was part of called Manifest AR, and we did a piece called "We Are in MoMA," and we basically were the first group that invaded the Museum of Modern Art with augmented reality. So the thing is that it keeps happening time and time again. And this is another piece I did with a guy named Mark Skwarek, in which this was in Bushwick in Brooklyn, in which I was basically talking about drones and bombers and that sort of thing, but in other words, dropping love instead of bombs, which is I think we would much rather have. One other piece is, this was a piece I did for Monrat Al Saadiat called World Without End. And basically it was my Arabic take on The Little Prince. I had been doing 3D scanning of Arabic architecture and screens and such, and I put them together in a way that you would go around, that you just basically go around the world, and you'd be, actually, thing is, you looked for a mushroom, you didn't look for a rose, but nevertheless, but that was up for about 3 months. Okay, next piece. I've been doing a lot of 3D scanning ever since about, I've been trying to do 3D scanning ever since about 1998, but I've only been successful since about 2017. And so I'm now calling this away from keyboard. I just started doing this about a month ago because of the fact that I realized that so much digital art that we make, we do stuck in front of a keyboard and a monitor and that sort of thing. And that I love the fact that this body of work of 3D scanning is done out in the wild. It's done out in architecture, in the built environment. It's in nature. It's all these things. So I first started doing this actually 2017. I was doing scans actually of cats in Dubai in cat cafes, which is kind of embarrassing. But the thing is it had to do with a story from Islamic, some Islamic stories about the idea that now the Prophet had a cat named Muezza who was, he loved so much that he cut his arm, cut the arm off of his robe, instead of waking his cat. And the thing is that I said, okay, I was trying to just figure out a way how to get my head around being in Arabia, because I was really having a hard time about trying to figure out how I was this Midwestern kid in the Middle East. And this was kind of the way that I kind of got around it. The next piece that was commissioned by Nation 2.0, which is affiliated with Dubai Culture, called Confinement Spaces, had to do with basically as we were confined during the 2020 isolations in Abu Dhabi. You start getting a little bit nuts, and so what happens is that I started going around and using my cell phone, and it was at the time using something called Displayland, which is now gone, but I think it just got bought up by Discord. And I went around, I just started scanning the environment and started making experiences about, actually there's an online VR experience about this. And this is actually the Louvre in Abu Dhabi, actually, in one of the first rooms. This is if anybody's ever seen a movie called Lord of War about a guy named Victor Bout that was played by Nicolas Cage. This is actually the plane that was depicted in that movie, and it's in a northern emirate called Kuwain, and I scanned it with my cell phone. And the thing is, of course, since I couldn't get above it, you know, of course I couldn't scan the top, and this is what I got, and I love the brokenness of it. This actually got picked up by a project called Edition 365 with the British Journal of Photography, and this was sold as an NFT. So, which was nice. This is another piece from Confinement Spaces. I can put out a URL later about how to log into it. You can go in through a browser. You can go in through a headset. And by the way, that's the actual plane, actually. So you're actually not allowed to take pictures of it because it's falling apart, but that's okay. Okay, AFK Part 4 in Cyprus. This is Nagin and I. And we were working on a project called Through the Mesh with nimi.org. What happened is that while we're out there, I started using the LiDAR on my iPad to start working on things. And so in December, there's basically the Persian solstice holiday called Yalda, and this is our yep, that's our Yalda table, exactly. So you know what, actually the thing is that Vermina, I will I'll go back and I'll talk about this. I'll answer some questions as I after I kind of like stop my rant. And so this is another one. This was outside our loft that we were staying at, and another another really interesting image from some of the places we were staying in the old town in Limassol. And so it's such interesting architecture, you know. And so and the thing is that, well, you could put it in Blender, of course. But the thing is that I just basically screen captured it off of my iPad, and it's that I'm actually doing this one as an oil painting. This got used for the announcement, and I'm actually a little bit embarrassed because basically the thing is that these were the rocks on the coast of Limassol that I basically just brought into Mesh Lab and did a quick let's see here. I did a quick screen capture of, and what happens is that this was just something that, you know, I just took the LiDAR on my iPad and just went at just quickly, and I'm just really amazed at the texture that you know, I get from that, and really looking at maybe putting this into like a VR engine like Unreal or something like that. Let's see here. This is another piece. This is let's see here, Davo. This is something that we're working on for the third collaboration, sir. This is basically called Mare City. Mare being one of the words for love, is the idea that this is basically a pastiche of all the cities that we have had significant times during our time together. And this has Chicago, it has Abu Dhabi, it has Baku, and that's that. And I'll just say that one of these is a weaving, actually, at this point. So we're working on other ones, but the thing is Davo, we want to get going. So this was done a couple days ago, actually. This is the Winona sculpture in the Central Park in Winona, and it was cold. And I went out there with the LiDAR and just scanned this thing, and basically went in and did an AI replacement of the background with some software to generate skies, and just kind of put this together, and seems to have been fairly popular. So I'm very happy for that. But once again, this was another case in which, basically I was out freezing my butt off, climbing into a frozen fountain and, doing this iconic sculpture in Winona. And and the thing is that I like scanning sculpture and architecture and that sort of thing of the places where I'm at, because of the fact that it somehow gives me kind of a groundedness, to things. I think one thing that I will end up with is that this is one of the things that I do for Nagin is I do poetry, and also I play about 5 or 6 instruments, and that's me. This is me on guitar and also the voiceover. And so I'm working with this generative adversarial network called VQGAN. And the thing is that I'm feeding it source images plus the poetry to create this particular work. And sorry, I'm kind of ranting on a bit, but I hope that you enjoy this. It's I was very pleased with how it turned out.
Over the mountain, a martin is flying, one from a distant land. He lands on her arm, leaving the smallest little mark to stay forever. What she didn't know was the bird's name and that mark were the same in the bird's tongue. Lark's tongue in aspic, nightingales feel invisible, but are more real than you can ever imagine. Little nails over skin trace lines of flight, of light around the tree of life. Homa falls into her hand, the most sacred fruit, while the fish circle the frogs. And the little bird, purple swallow, Martin Banach, squeezes softly and burrows into sleep, waiting for morning.
Now let me see if there's anything else. Oh, by the way, I teach at Winona State in Minnesota in creative digital media. So I'm kind of the VR and interactive guy there, and that's that's my logo for the group. So anyway, that's kind of the thing there. So anyway, let me go through here and just kind of fish through a couple things. And just say, I'm sorry that I didn't get into some of the questions immediately, but let me just kind of bounce through a couple of these things here. What do I consider a successful 3D scan? Well, the thing is it depends to me on whether you're trying to be accurate or not. I was part of the glitch movement in Chicago that, basically the whole glitch thing kind of started up in Chicago and Amsterdam in about 2010. And I was kind of part of that crowd. And so the thing is that I believe very much in the creative of the emotional quality of the glitch. And so what happens is that going and having these imperfections and having these really just completely broken things, but they're just so interesting to me. This idea of having hung out with Fluxus artists a lot, this idea of just sort of like letting things be as they are, and appreciating things, kind of like how John Cage was always about, about processes and letting things happen and chance and that sort of thing. And just sort of like saying, scan the damn thing and, and just, and look at it and see whether you like it or not. And this is, kind of how I am. And then, the thing is though, is that if I want to be doing something, I think when I was in Sharjah in 2016, 17, I forget when I started, maybe 15. I forget, I'm getting old. But what happens is that I was trying to do accurate, architectural scanning, and I found out it was really hard. And so I decided to go to artistic scanning, and I thought that was just a lot better. And then also a 3D scan as opposed to a photograph. I like, one thing I love is I did a lot of Second Life work, and I did a recreation of the Last Supper. But the thing is that, it has a UPS truck in it. And so the thing is that I feel like when we go between, like from this world we have out here into the digital and then back, and we keep going back and forth, there's bits that are missing. And actually for the show that I curated in Limassol, Negin did a fantastic piece called In Pieces. And the thing is that, as we go across people, as we go across borders and that sort of thing, we leave pieces of ourselves behind. Or wherever we go, there's like these translations and that sort of thing. Negin can talk about that far better than I don't want to speak for her, but this is how I saw it. But and I love that metaphor. And so the thing is also the other thing is a 3D scan. I can turn it and I can get any angle on it I want and then capture it. And, so the thing is a photograph, you get what you get. And so that's kind of that. Let's see. Well, you know what? I'll kind of say to Colin's things that strong images don't always require a lot of labor. I want to go back to Picasso when somebody asked him, it's like, how long did it take him to do that painting? Is saying it's a matter of saying that there is a hell of a lot of labor. He says it took him 42 years and 4 hours to do that painting. So in other words, it's like a Zen monk learning how to do the circular Enzo. It's like, how many years have they been doing that? And of course they could sit down, they could bang one out. It's like, well, that didn't take you very long. It took you 30 seconds. Well, yes, but I've been practicing this for like 20 years. So I think that's also the other thing there. So yes, you've been called out. And what do I use to scan? It depends. Is that I've used a Connect. I've used a Connect. I've used my iPhone. I'm currently using my iPad. I'm using the LiDAR on that. Really.
Hold on, the Xbox Connect, that Connect?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I knew people were doing interesting and fun things with them, but I didn't think I knew any of them in this room.
Yeah. and that sort of thing. So I think I've kind of gone through all the things, and I hope that and the one thing is that I just want to kind of say mention, of course, is that my thanks to Davo and Colin for keeping this going, and also the other thing is that also my indebtedness to Negin for also keeping me going. So that sort of thing there. So more questions.
We do have time for them, so if anybody wants to shoot them, might as well. It could also be the case that people are still ruminating, which does happen.
Yeah, and
after
I'm sorry,
presentation.
I do tend to be a bit of a machine gun, so I apologize.
So Patrick, are you still considering pursuing that doctorate in art history? And if so,
Yeah.
maybe you could tell a little bit about what that's all about.
Not really.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
I have a question.
Oh, so we have Renata and we have Cynthia. I think Renata was first, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll go with Renata
You know
first.
what, Tommy? No, not yet. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Renata.
Yeah, can you explain just what part of your Jacquard project is real and what's the NFT?
What do you mean?
Well, it sounded to me like some people who buy your NFTs of the rugs will actually get.
That my rugs aren't NFTs.
Oh, okay.
If they buy 10 NFTs, they get a rug.
Okay, so the rugs are gifts.
It's unlockable content.
Okay, great. But has there ever been a real rug made with fabric, with fibers?
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I've done probably about 20 or 30 of these, but I mean those particular rugs I've done about 5 at this point. One's one's going to the Verosco collection at La Trobe University. One's already, I think, in Anne and Michael Spalder's hands, and there's another one going to the Computer Art Society collection in London.
Awesome, thank you.
And there's also one at the Boca Raton Museum.
Very cool.
Yep.
Patrick,
Okay.
thank you
Yes.
for your presentation. I very much enjoyed watching your journey in art, digital art. You mentioned that you used your iPhone and iPad to do some scanning. Was that 3D scanning you did with your iPhone and iPad?
Yes.
So you used one of the apps from the App Store, I'm assuming.
Just the standard Apple one.
Oh, you mean the one that comes with the phone?
No, well, there's an Apple app, you know, for the device that have a LiDAR. It's just called 3D scanner.
Great.
It's, you know, so that's the thing. But the whole thing is that I'll be, you know, on one hand, I'm being a little bit cagey in the fact that these scans are a little bit worked. In other words, I get the scans out, and then of course I take them into 3D Studio Max, or or I'll take the screen captures and I'll bring them into Photoshop. In other words, like these are pretty worked images.
Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a question from Sue.
No, I don't. You know what? Actually, from March to early May, not sure. I'll let the community know if there is, you know, but I don't know right now.
Sue, are you asking because you're going to be in New York City during that time period? Because I know you were planning on visiting.
Yes.
I'm gonna be.
Oh, you know
there.
what? You know what? You know what? I'm. Excuse me. You know what? Of course, there's going to be work at the Southampton Center for the Arts.
Excellent. And is everyone gonna be at that? Because I want to come and meet you guys.
Oh.
So the quick announcement regarding that, while we're still recording, the start date has been pushed forward a week to the 21st because it was decided that the Easter Passover weekend was not the best bet, which I think is a good decision. So the tentative and hopefully definitive reception date will be the 23rd of April, which is a Saturday from 6 to 8 at Southampton Arts Center. But the drop-off dates will stay the same. As
Nagin was mentioning, is that there there is some of our Jacquard work at the Greenleaf Arts Center currently in Chicago for the next month in a show called Be Mine, which is I have the first plotter drawing I ever did of Negin, and then we have some of Negin's Jacquard work, and that's there if you're out in the Windy City and you want to go see that.
Oh, thank you.
So, you know what? Actually, Tommy, it isn't printing. You know, it's weaving. So, in other words, basically, one of the best places in the U.S. is a place called Magnolia Editions and that sort of thing. It's like it's on the West Coast and that sort of thing. Is that Chuck Close and I have both used that, and there are a couple other ones that are a little more or less expensive and that sort of thing, and also and Spalder's been doing a bit of it too. And there's a few sources. You know it's not hard to find, but it's not printing, it's weaving. You know what? There are DIY looms. I can't remember. I think it was Margarita Benitez was making one a long time ago, but we kind of, I was, let's see here, but that discussion was before I went to Arabia, and I never really knew where she was going to with that. And the thing is that honestly, do you want to build a loom with a servo for every pick that you're, raising and dropping and that sort of thing? Is that,
I think Tommy does.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Do it.
In a studio apartment under my bed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Well, the thing is like with the, with the plotter stuff, I use these Delta bots with belts and that sort of thing. And so what happens is like, it's kind of like two motors with a belt and then weights and then the pen holder in the middle. And I have machines that can go up to like 4 meters square at this point, and the thing is I just have to expand the belts and and find a place that's big enough to do the stupid thing and not have my school yell at me.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Are you ready? Okay. So I was really impressed with the way you talked about Kandinsky and the spiritual and art and the reading. And I think we all should be reading more. I'm saying that for myself. I should be reading more. Do you see, I look at the 3D forms, and in some ways they are beginning to look like Kandinsky. Okay, you'll just have to text that to me later.
Said art. Yeah, my favorite book is Art and Theory, 1900 to 2000. It's by Harrison and Wood, and Blackwell, of course, a great press puts that. But it's like, I'll just say here's Leotard, here's Clifford Still, here's Yves Klein, and the one thing that I always kind of say is that one thing that I always love to kind of say about artists who kind of get quoted is they write, and that's one thing. So
so can I get to the heart of my question here?
Please. Yeah, the Kandinsky thing keeps coming back, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I look at the 3D scans and the one that you said, oh, this is just rocks, that kind of came apart in some way, but it's very Kandinsky-like. So do you feel yourself maybe going back into that space again? Or is it just so in you that it's going to keep popping out forever?
Well, consider the Techspressionist still life. The thing is that it never went away. As if you look at the the plotter work and things like that, that's point in line to plane. If you look at the the color work, that's concerning the spiritual and art. In other words, basically Kandinsky wrote him, when I studied that stuff, it wrote itself into my operating system.
Or it baked itself into your cake, and now you can't take out the ingredients.
Well, my cake is pretty baked. We all know.
Great. Okay, thanks. Great. Yeah.
All right, Patrick. I know we're at 7:05, so we're a couple of minutes over time. But let's give Patrick a round of applause too.
By the
maybe?
way, Tommy, just real quick, murals is like I showed that one mural. That was a mural I did with the Delta bot. So anyway, that was just real quick. Anyway, thanks. I really appreciate
you're interrupting your applause. Jeez, guy. All right, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Great presentation for Patrick.
All right, folks, we are coming down to the end of our little salon. That does not mean it's completely over though, it's just the end of the recording period. After the recording period is our quote unquote after party that we like to engage in after these meetings. But until then, I just want to thank you all for attending today. Thank you all for your questions, your participation, and just seeing your lovely faces, that too. Those of you that can see your lovely faces anyway.
Thanks for having me, and I'm sorry I was a few minutes late, but the thing is, it was like that. It was that big installation shot that I wanted to find, and to me that was really important to kind of show that kind of scale.
I'm not sure anybody's going to give you a hard time about that.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
And
thank you so much,
Davo,
everyone.
for your service as always, running the show. Great job moderating. And also thank you very much to Deanna and Patrick for presenting, and all you guys.
Everyone gets an applause.
Yay!
All right.
Bravo, bravo.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for attending, and I will see you next time. So we're gonna sign out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're out.